Good morning. It is August 18th, 2020, and I've got some good news and some bad news. I guess we'll start with the bad news. It was very sad this morning when I came out here to my garden to water because in this empty patch here I planted a second round of corn and beans. And the beans and the corn have sprouted. There's a little bean sprout. I've got 2 bean sprouts there. And you can see some corn coming up. But as I mentioned before, my first round of beans planted 48 plants, and I have like 4 or 5 of them left. Here's the bean plants that didn't get eaten by the bunnies. But over 40 bean plants got eaten by the bunnies. Well, I planted a second round of corn and beans, and I thought that I had figured out that the neem oil that I spray with the pure neem oil with azadirachta in it, I thought that it was keeping the bunnies away, because these 4 plants didn't get eaten. But it turns out the bunnies just didn't want to eat them. Because last night I came out here to the garden and I sprayed neem oil on all these little bean plants and corn plants. And this morning I come out here and you see how this has been chewed clean off. They've been chewed down to nubs. All of the new baby bean plants that I planted have been chewed overnight. And I sprayed them with neem oil last night and it didn't rain. So I guess bunnies don't care about neem oil. So I'm happy that they don't eat corn sprouts, and I'm happy that they don't eat, everything else in my garden, but they definitely eat young bean plants, because I have, how many do I have left? And I didn't plant 48 this time because I didn't have enough seeds. I planted around 35 bean plants, I think. And I have one there, 2 there, so 3. So this whole plot was replanted with corn and beans. And the corn's fine, but I only have 3 baby bean plants left. So that's the bad news. I was very sad. I was very angry when I came out here this morning and figured that out. So I don't know how to keep bunnies from eating bean sprouts. I mean, unless you can see I've got some chicken wire there that I honestly really just put to keep the dogs from getting in. Ginger, she likes to dig, and I didn't want the dogs getting in my garden, so I put the chicken wire in the corners where there were gaps. But if I put the chicken wire all the way around, I guess the bunnies wouldn't be able to get in. Maybe. And at this point, I don't know if it's worth doing. Maybe I'll just do it next year. I am going to have a fall garden, but I guess I'm just destined to not grow beans. Because I haven't had a problem with anything else getting eaten like that. So, anyway, that's really sad, but maybe I'll get a good harvest from my, 5 remaining bean plants, if they don't get eaten as well. Now for some good news. So, as you can see, my tomato plants over here, they were growing so tall, they were almost reaching the top of these 10-foot poles. but this pole over here started to bend inwards because it's just plastic, and it just couldn't support these heavy tomato plants. And so what I did is I built a tomato tunnel. Chris helped me, but I went out and bought the cattle panel and the posts, and it's so easy. You just drive these posts into the ground with a rubber mallet and cut your lengths of cattle panel, which you can find at Lowe's or Home Depot, super cheap, and zip tied it on there. And it's super cool. I got up there and on a ladder and pulled my tomato plants that were hanging down into the garden. I pulled them over top, and you can see now they're like, okay, we're gonna grow straight up again. But they'll grow straight up and then they'll just flop over the sides again. So they'll just keep coming down here, and I love it because, you know, they're not cracking. I had a few branches that cracked and had to remove, and it still had little green tomatoes on them. But it's super easy to pick the tomatoes now. I just go in here and I just, you know, let's see, I picked the ripe ones already, but you can see, you know, they're there. It's super easy to just reach in, grab some tomatoes. And I think it's cool too. It's just a cool little tunnel. So yeah, I'm really happy about that, and I need to finish it and come down here, because these are all my cherry tomato plants, which were doing the best. But these are the larger tomato plants, the Cherokee purple tomatoes and the beefsteak tomatoes, and they're having the same issue with the you know, they were getting tall. So I just need to go get more cattle panel, and we can continue this tunnel all the way down so my plants can have some support. And I'm really happy too, because my tomato plants, especially the larger ones, were fighting a disease, you know, a little bit before mid-season. I don't know exactly when it started showing up, but they were having, you know, leaves like this. And I got out here yesterday and there were a lot of yellow leaves like this, and even brown shriveled leaves. And I got out here with my knife and just cut off a bunch of the diseased branches. But even though they've been dealing with that, they're doing okay. Like when I first saw the disease, whenever it first happened, I was like, oh no, you know, because it's my first time growing tomatoes on this scale, and I panicked. I was really upset. I felt like I was grieving, and I didn't know what to do, but I did come out here and aggressively cut off, you know, every damaged branch and leaf that I could find. And they gave me, you know, one round of tomatoes. I don't know how many tomatoes, but I had tons and tons of tomatoes. I still have some tomatoes from that first round in my windowsill in the kitchen that I need to use up. But I thought that they might be done after that. But I did fertilize them, and they're, as you can see, putting on another round of fruit. And I'm so thrilled because I love tomatoes. I mean, I really didn't realize before this year how delicious tomatoes taste when they're grown in your backyard. And I especially love the Cherokee purple tomatoes. They have been a treat. They're beautiful and delicious. Been eating so many tomato sandwiches, making tomato basil pie. I used the cherry tomatoes and made tomato jam, which was delicious. I'm about to make some more of it, hopefully sometime this week. And then, let's see, a little update. I built this little cucumber tunnel trellis before I built the tomatoes. It was kind of like a test run because the sunflowers that were supporting the cucumbers snapped and fell over. And they're doing all right. I'm dealing with cucumber beetles at the moment. They're awful. They find my little cucumbers and make holes in them. And if they're large cucumbers, then I can still harvest them. But a lot of them, you know, the cucumber beetle gets in there when the cucumber's small, and it does that. And that's not gonna grow. It's just rotten. It just came right off. So cucumber beetles are awful, but again, I heavily sprayed these cucumber plants with neem oil last night. It's supposed to smother the eggs and the larvae. So we'll see if it gets any better. But I've had a huge cucumber harvest also. I made like 6 or 7 jars of pickles the other day, which I'm really excited about. So yeah, just garden stuff. Things grow and things get eaten, and these beautiful, some of the bean plants that survived the first round of bunnies. And the flowers are gorgeous. Flowers are really pretty. And I don't know, I've never grown beans before, so I don't know at what point these flowers are going to turn into like bean pods, because I've had the flowers hanging around for what seems like a couple of weeks now and not seen any pods. Yep. So that's the garden update, the good and the bad. Thank you again for watching.